undoing what James Spears and Andrew Wallet did. Britney's new trust is finally honoring her wishes. On November 12, John Zabel, Britney's temporary conservator of the estate who replaced James, filed 2 petitions related to the substituted judgment needed to execute Britney's new estate plan. In this video, we'll go through those petitions, but first let's do a short recap. Remember that Britney executed the SJB trust in 2004 and effectively transferred all her assets to it. But after James and Wallet became co-conservators in 2008, they had new plans for the estate. They transferred a lot of companies out of the SJB trust, closed most of them, and opened new ones that remained under the conservatorship. But more importantly, in 2018, they executed a new will stating that once she passes away, all her assets are going to automatically be owned by a new trust, the BJS Kids and Family Trust, which they also created and made its provisions. Throughout the years, James and Wallet, and a number of other key players, have mingled with Britney's SJB trust, business entities, and other assets, making all sorts of amendments and changes, and none of these were in accordance with Britney's wishes. But most importantly, since James and Wallet made all these provisions, there is a real chance that they buried things in them that might help them one way or another in the future, which is why it makes complete sense for Britney to basically scrap everything and start with a new trust and a new estate plan. But enough with the recap. Let's get into it. The conservatorship of both estate and the person were terminated on November 12. Therefore, Zabel is no longer a conservator, since there is no conservatorship, but he asked the court to temporarily retain certain limited powers to be able to execute Britney's new estate plan, which includes revocation of 2 trust documents. This refers to the SJB Trust and the BJS Kids and Family Trust. Remember that Britney also has an irrevocable life insurance trust, but this is, as the name says, not revocable, and presumably this trust only holds Britney's life insurance, so it makes sense why this is not being revoked. Execution of a new trust agreement to hold all of her assets, basically returning to what Britney wanted in 2004, to have all her assets in a single trust. This trust is called the BJS 2021 Trust. Presumably, this trust will also hold the life insurance trust as well. Execution of power of attorney and an advance health care directive. This is basically to avoid 2008 from happening again. If Britney has these in place, even if she were to be declared incapacitated again in the future, this is how she is making sure her wishes will be respected, and no one she doesn't want to can take over her estate or her person. It is not known who are the persons holding the power of attorney and the advance health care directive. Zabel stated that the previous provisions set up by James and Wallet prevented Britney from amending her estate plan without court order, even if the conservatorship was terminated. Therefore, Zabel insists that it is crucial to make these amendments now and not adopt James' plan for an abrupt termination. He also states that he is purely making these amendments now himself to relieve Britney from having to do all of this herself after the termination. Hidden gem here is the phrasing "during Britney's lifetime." Britney or the conservators may revoke or amend the BJS Kids and Family Trust with court approval, which to us seems to mean that James never thought Britney would get out of the conservatorship. He never considered this as a possibility when amending her estate plan. Interestingly, Zabel indicates that in the future, Britney will be assisted by her reputable competent agents, specifically her business manager, counsel, and trustee. While we know counsel is Matthew Rosengart, the current business manager is Michael Kane. The trustee is not specifically named, but it is mentioned in another section of the document, Fiduciary Trust of California. Also interesting is that Zabel purposefully did not redact a partial phrase which indicated that the beneficiaries of the new trust are Britney herself, her children and grandchildren. No mention of other family members. The petition also reveals that Jamie Lynn didn't take the necessary steps to effectively become trustee of the SJB Trust. Although Ivan supposedly named her his successor trustee sometime in 2017, he was always and still is the acting trustee of the SJB Trust. This explains why we never actually saw Jamie Lynn's resignation, but it also brings up more questions. How was she able to even make a petition to move SJB Trust's funds to Stonebridge if she was never the acting trustee? She did withdraw the petition shortly after filing it, but it still doesn't quite make sense. Also, if Ivan Tabak supposedly resigned, how is he still the trustee? Was his resignation contingent on Jamie Lynn becoming trustee? Or was he just stuck as trustee for 4 more years because Jamie Lynn did not take the necessary steps to become trustee? We don't have answers to these questions, but it is a bizarre situation to say the least. Whatever the answers may be, fortunately, Ivan has agreed to cooperate and move all SJB Trust's assets to the new BJS 2021 Trust. There is one important clarification we want to make regarding the BJS Kids and Family Trust and Will, set up by James and Wallet. The phrasing with the end result being that the bulk of Miss Spears' assets were under the control of Mr. Spears, rather than a trustee, refers to Britney's assets during her lifetime. It has been wrongfully interpreted as if James would personally control the assets after Britney's passing, but it is not known who the beneficiaries of the BJS Kids and Family Trust were, although we can all pretty much guess. In fact, what Zabel meant here is that Britney's intentions were always, ever since 2004, to hold all her assets in a trust and be managed by a trustee, herself, or a professional. But what James did is the contrary, making sure that, during her lifetime, most assets will be out of a trust and controlled by him until she passed away. Another interesting fact Zabel pointed out is that the vast majority of Britney's assets have been held in the conservatorship and not in trust, which confirms information that we have previously covered in our SJB series, that this trust did not hold a lot of assets and in any case, not more than the conservatorship, which held around $60 million, business entities included, as of 2019. Point 15 of the petition states that Zabel needs temporary limited power to execute the final administrative issues. Basically, instead of him transferring all assets to Britney and then Britney having to execute an estate plan herself, he will execute directly the estate plan that Britney wants. The settlor is Britney, the trustee is Fiduciary Trust of California, and the beneficiaries are Britney and her descendants. In this petition, he asks to have the power to execute the new trust and revoke 2 of the old trusts, as well as her new will and the Advance Health Care Directive. However, at the last hearing on December 8th, Britney was granted the power to execute her own estate documents and basically make any changes she wants, without needing court approval, which might mean that Zabel probably will not need court approval to make any changes moving on, since finally, after almost 14 years, the only one who needs to approve and sign now.
It's Britney, bitch.